All right, handicappers, to the quarterbacks. The most unimportant position of all the four major positions, 5 if you want to count flex, in fantasy football. And it is always the one that always dumbfounds me how fast some quarterbacks will go in drafts. They are so interchangeable across the board that going up early on a quarterback to grab a quarterback usually spells doom. I don't believe I have ever seen someone draft a quarterback in the first round and win a fantasy football season. I don't recall seeing anyone drafting him in the second round. When I see someone draft Pat Mahomes in the first or second round, unless it's a deeper league, I automatically just assume that guy is done because he's just handicapped. He might as well have said, I don't want a first round pick. I don't want a second round pick. Pat Mahomes is number one on my list of who you don't draft this season. And it's because he's going way too early. 15 on an ADP when Josh Allen is averaging 28-29 is a little insane. You're trying to tell me that you're willing to wait on Josh Allen until late in the second round, possibly even early third round, but you have to have Patrick Mahomes at the first turn? That doesn't make any sense. You're not going to win that one. So Pat Mahomes is number one on my do not draft list. He's going way too high. The number 2 guy is Dak Prescott. He's coming off a major injury. You cannot draft a guy that high when he has not been smooth in the preseason and in practice, meaning he's been fighting the injury the whole time through. If he was up slinging it and he was doing a great job and you saw him in a couple of preseason games and you're like, you know what, he looks like the old Dak, then okay, I kind of see the number 5. He's going way too early, y'all. Way too early. He's averaging in the early 5th round. In some drafts, I'm seeing him go in front of Lamar Jackson, Kyler Murray. That makes absolutely no sense. My number 3 guy that I think is going extremely high is Tom Brady. Tom Brady may get himself another Super Bowl ring, but he's not going to get you a fantasy championship if he's your starting quarterback. Tom Brady has a 73 ADP. That is a full round in front of guys like Matthew Stafford, Ryan Tannehill, Joe Burrow. Way too high to take Tom Brady. My next guy on the list would be Jalen Hurts. There's too many question marks, and you're having to take Jalen Hurts in the 9th round to find out what the deal is with those question marks. So that's a big, big problem, because if you're taking Jalen Hurts deep in the draft and you're taking a flyer on him, I get it. But there's too much excitement of him because he's such a great athlete. So people are jumping out in front. But they're taking him in front of guys like Joe Burrow. They're taking him in front of guys like Trevor Lawrence, who is a much more polished passer. In some ways, Trey Lance might have a higher ceiling. You just don't know how long they're going to sit him on the bench in San Francisco. Matt Ryan is a well-known commodity. And though I know a lot of people don't like him, but Deshaun Watson is averaging getting drafted about 3.5 rounds after Jalen Hurts gets drafted. That is a big deal, my friends. You draft Jalen Hurts that high, you've probably, unless he turns in to the second coming of Patrick Mahomes, you have wrecked your draft. And that is a big gamble to take. All right, guys that I do like, and obviously these lists for the quarterbacks, they're much smaller than the others because you really have about 15 guys that you would realistically draft or not draft. When you get those 15 guys, there's no real need to look farther. Some guys do like to have their backup. I play that by ear. If there's a really good backup available at the end of the draft, I'll draft them. If there's not, if they're all interchangeable, if I get to the end and everyone's got a backup, then what the hell's the point of me drafting a backup? Because all I've got to do is stream one when I need one later in the season. And there's always a guy that you can grab. It's kind of like a tight end. All right. So these are the guys that I do like because they're going much lower than they should. I'm seeing Aaron Rodgers ADP around 55, but he's normally been going in what I've seen around the 10th quarterback taken in the draft. So, and by the way, the ADP that I'm going off of it's a computer. So there's no human element to it. For whatever reason, people have dropped Aaron Rodgers way down on their draft board. I've got him about 5th or 6th on my list. but I'm seeing a lot of guys go in front of him, maybe even 7th. But I'm seeing a lot of guys go in front of him that have many more question marks. We already talked about a couple of them. Aaron Rodgers is a guy I like where he's getting drafted at. Another guy who's averaging being taken somewhere around the 80th pick, but he's usually around the 12th quarterback off the board, somewhere in that neighborhood, is Matthew Stafford. He has a chance to really shine in McVay's offense, and we'll find out early on if that's a good pick or not. So don't overreach for him. But if you're there later in the draft and you need a quarterback and some of the other big names are gone, Matthew Stafford is worth a gamble. Joe Burrow. I think Joe Burrow is a guy, he's averaging going in about the 11th round. Joe Burrow is a guy, when they have him ranked somewhere between 15th and 16th, 14th, some lists as high as 13, that's a little too low for me. Give me a Joe Burrow who I think is going to come back healthy. I think he's going to come back fine. I would rather have him over a Tom Brady. I'd rather have him over a Jalen Hurts. And I would definitely rather have him over Matt Ryan. Deshaun Watson's another one that you like. He's not going until around the 13th, 14th, even 15th round. Not even getting drafted because so many people are concerned. But if you play the long game and you say, you know what, maybe I just draft Deshaun Watson and see if he ends up playing. And if he ends up playing, then I'm going to make out like a bandit. If Deshaun Watson does not get, doesn't matter how good the Texans are, Deshaun Watson is going to put up numbers. So if Deshaun Watson goes out there and gives you a decent season, not a great season for Deshaun, but a decent season, he's going to be worth a guy in the top 10 by the end of the year. There's no doubt about it. We'll throw one more out at you because I believe this guy is going extremely low, and you're going to start seeing him climb and climb and climb. We watched him on Monday Night Football. Jameis Winston is going to be the starter in New Orleans. He's averaging around the 16th round, which means he's not drafted in a lot of leagues. Jameis Winston is going to be the starter with Sean Payton's offense. He can still sling it. And if he can clear up the interceptions, and I think Sean Payton can definitely manage that. If he can clear that up, I think the sky is the limit for a guy that just a couple of years ago was a top 7 fantasy football quarterback. And so there are your quarterbacks that I say the do's and the don'ts. Every Sunday, starting September 12th, the Armchair Quarterbacks Handicappers, we are going to be 10 a.m. to noon talking fantasy football, all genres. And we're also going against the spread with your DFS advice. Your DFS advice and against the spread, 62% win percentage against the spread over the last 6 seasons. We'll see you September 12th.